Revealed, the new maid's shocking discovery, a heartwarming portrait of the father she never knew. Every morning, Sarah woke with a heavy heart sitting deep in her chest, reminding her of the burdens she bore. She scrambled to her feet in the cramped apartment she shared with her single mother and younger siblings, the air suffocating with unfulfilled dreams and the echoes of struggles. The world outside was teeming with life, but within their four small walls, hope often felt far away. With only a few minutes to grab a piece of bread, she shuffled to work, ready to serve the wealthy families who lived in extravagant homes that sparkled like fairy tales just out of her reach. As she dusted the grandiosity of chandeliers and polished the marble floor, Sarah couldn't help but feel hollow beneath the weight of privilege. Each day, she wiped away the excesses of lives she couldn't touch, longing for a way out, yearning for a sense of belonging that seemed just beyond her grasp. The societal judgments, thick and suffocating, reminded her where she stood, an immigrant maid lost in a maze of discrepancy. One day, while cleaning the dimly lit attic of a stately mansion, she stumbled upon an old, weathered box wedged in a dusty corner. As she pulled it into the light, curiosity washed over her. What stories did it hold? With a hesitant breath, she opened it, and a collection of heartfelt letters and faded photographs spilled out, revealing a life she had never known, her father, a decorated war hero who had existed only in whispered stories from her mother. As she sifted through the letters, words filled with love and longing leapt off the pages, igniting a spark inside her. Sarah's heart raced as she read about her father's struggles, his fight for recognition after returning home, battling prejudice just as she did each day. Tears welled in her eyes, not for the father she had lost but for the deep connection she had been yearning to establish. Each letter bore his aspirations for her, dreams that rippled through time and pushed against the walls of their confined reality. It hit her he too faced the weight of judgment, and she wasn't alone in this fight for acknowledgement. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days passed, her father's words transformed Sarah. They tugged at the essence of her identity, forcing her to confront her own ambitions and the loyalty she felt towards her family. Yet, within that tug-of-war, hope blossomed. But change wasn't easy, the tension simmered. A rally over a community issue sparked something in Sarah, igniting an inner fire. This was her moment, and as she stood before her neighbors, ready to share their struggles, she could feel the weight of collective expectations resting on her shoulders. Just as she began to speak, a member of the audience hurled an accusation, his voice drenching her father's legacy in shame. The air thickened, and Sarah felt the heat of the crowd. Would they rally around her or reject the very truth she sought to claim? Her heart thudded, poised for the answer right then. The story didn't just belong to her father anymore, it was becoming her own. What would she choose in that crucial moment? Would she stand tall, or succumb to the shadows of a life spent cleaning the remnants of privilege? Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the accusation echoed through the crowd. The man who spoke, a figure she recognized but couldn't name, stood with arms crossed, eyes narrowed. You think your father's fight means anything to us? Look around. We're fighting our own battles. His words sliced through her like cold air. The murmurs of the crowd shifted from support to skepticism. Her heart raced, urging her to defend the man she had only come to know through faded letters. But how could she explain the connection, the understanding she felt coursing through her from the words of a stranger who turned out to be her father? She looked at the faces before her, tired, worn by struggles just like hers. They were a tapestry of resilience. A flicker of determination sparked in her chest. This wasn't just about her father anymore, it was about them, too. I understand your pain, she began, her voice shakier than she intended. We all feel it, the weight of being marginalized, judged. My father fought for something that I believe can still unite us. The man shook his head, a sneer forming on his lips. What does a letter mean in our reality? Where's the proof of his struggle? All we have is our own fight. I'm not asking you to take my word for it, Sarah pressed. I'm asking you to see the bigger picture. He faced battles no one would understand, similar to ours. He fought for recognition, for dignity, for me. Her voice was rising, fueled by an urgency she couldn't contain. If he were here, he'd want us to come together. Just like we should do now. The crowd shifted again, this time an ember of curiosity igniting within their eyes. Some leaned in, their attention peaked. Sarah took a deep breath, grounding herself. The letters were more than personal, they were a bridge to a shared history. The struggle wasn't just hers anymore, it belonged to everyone. As she continued, weaving stories from the letters together with her reality, she saw the initial skepticism slowly melt, replaced by introspective expressions. Words of resilience from her father began to echo off the walls of the gathering. A woman in the front row, eyes glistening with tears, whispered to her neighbor, "Maybe we all carry the weight of that fight, in one way or another." With each word, Sarah stitched a finer thread of connection, weaving her father's legacy into the fabric of the community's struggles. She could feel a palpable shift. Instead of being just an observer, she was part of the fight. The crowd was starting to feel unified under the banner of shared experiences. But just as the energy grew, the man who had thrown doubt earlier stepped forward again, raising his hand. "And what about us now?" He punctured the newfound harmony, his voice louder, more forceful. "What will change for our children? Dreaming letters won't feed them." His statement hung in the air, heavy with truth. Sarah's heart constricted at the thought. What could she offer them, really? The whispers of her father promised recognition, but recognition alone wasn't enough. It had to lead to action, to change. The rally suddenly felt larger than her. Pressure mounted, swirling thoughts lodged in her mind. Would she crumble under the weight, or rise to this moment filled with potential? As the looks of the crowd remained fixated on her, she felt the eyes of her father watching over her, a flicker of inspiration guiding her. Together, she whispered, her resolve crystallizing. Together we can make things change. But could it be enough? In that moment, with the crowd hanging on her words, Sarah realized the next phase of her journey was not just about her father's hopes, but about igniting a passion within those standing before her. What path would emerge from this rallying cry? Could her ambition spark not just hope, but an actionable revolution? The stakes were higher than ever, and as she prepared for her next words, the weight of her father's legacy loomed larger than life, propelling her forward. What would unfold next would not only define her journey but could reshape the very fabric of their community. With a deep breath, Sarah gathered her thoughts, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon her. What if she began, her voice trembling with emotion, what if we don't just remember those who fought before us, but we become the change? What if we take their struggles and turn them into something real for us, for our kids? The man who had challenged her remained stony, but in the shifting faces around her, she saw the flickers of hope. Change doesn't come from standing still. It doesn't come from just talking about it. It comes from action. She stepped forward, feeling the pulsing energy of the crowd. We have the power to rewrite our stories, to ensure our children know their worth, their history. Whispers of agreement began to weave through the crowd like wildfire, igniting a spark in those weary eyes. She could feel the walls of doubt beginning to fracture. The man stepped back, his arms still crossed, but now his expression was more contemplative than defiant. "See, we all have a place in this fight, not just for recognition, but for action," Sarah continued, the fire in her words rising. "If we combine our struggles, our personal battles, we can create a force strong enough to demand change. My father's story is just one. We can weave our stories together." Two voices called out from the back. "But how? What do we do?" A wave of nervous energy rushed through her. They were hungry for direction, and she knew this was her moment. Let us gather, let us strategize. We can organize rallies, workshops, and engage with the youth. Teach them the value of their voices. Her heart beat faster, each suggestion drawing her in deeper. Together, we can advocate for funds, create programs that uplift rather than oppress. The crowd surged forward, enthusiasm bubbling beneath the surface. The woman from earlier, her cheeks still glistening from tears, stepped up. I want to help. We can meet at the community center. The energy was contagious, pulling others in to express their support, their burdens shifting slightly, as if shared. Jordan, the man who had cast doubt initially, stepped closer, the skepticism in his eyes replaced by curiosity. You really think we can make a difference? Sarah locked her gaze with his, holding his uncertainty. I know we can. It won't be easy, but remember, it's how we pick ourselves up after we fall that defines us. She smiled gently. That's the beauty of community. We're not in this alone. A resounding cheer erupted from the gathering, echoing against the walls. Hearts lifted, spirits entwined. The once divided crowd was now a cohesive force, fueled by shared dreams and common goals. A sense of solidarity washed over her, powerful and open. But as the excitement thrummed through her, doubts crept back in. Could she truly lead them to change? What if they faltered, or worse, what if she was wrong? Sarah looked at the faces surrounding her, now beaming with hope. She couldn't let fear win. All right everyone, let us start this movement tonight. She called, heart racing. Let us show the world our resilience, our unity. As shouts of support filled the air, something inside her shifted. It felt like the first spark of fire in a dim room. Could this be the moment when everything changed for them all? With determination settling in her chest, she took one last look at the crowd, exhilaration coursing through her. Each of them carried their battles, but now they were ready to face them together. What would the first steps towards this new journey look like? The rallying cries rang louder, but amidst the excitement, an unmistakable weight settled in Sarah's mind. What challenges awaited them on this path? Would her father's legacy guide her, or would she need to forge her own way entirely? As the voices surged, she felt the anticipation pulse. And just as she opened her mouth to speak again, a sharp, unfamiliar scream cut through the rally, silencing the crowd in an instant. What was happening? The scream echoed sharp and unnerving, slicing through the air like a knife. In an instant, the vibrant energy of the crowd froze. Faces turned, muscles tense. Fear rippled among them, a collective gasp that seemed to escape from 1,000 throats. Sarah felt her heart leap into her throat. What was that? She whispered, her pulse racing. She scanned the gathering, desperately searching for the source of the sound. Panic threatened to take hold, but she steadied her breath, willing herself to stay calm. From the back, a figure emerged, pushing through the throng. A young woman stumbled forward, her face pale and her eyes wide, shimmering with unshed tears. They're coming. We need to get out. It's not safe. A murmur broke out among the crowd, disbelief mixing with anxiety. Jordan moved closer to Sarah, his expression etched with concern. What is she talking about? Who is coming? I don't know, Sarah answered, her voice low. A wave of unease washed over her. This was how it was supposed to go. They had just ignited a fire of hope, and now it felt like it was being snuffed out before their eyes. The young woman continued, her breath coming in quick gasps. They're making arrests, targeting people who stand up. I saw them. There were vans, guys in uniforms. It's bad, you have to listen. Panic gripped Sarah's heart. They were just beginning to unite, and now fear threatened to tear them apart. Everyone, please. She called out, raising her arms in an attempt to regain order. We need to stay calm. Let us not react out of fear, we're here for a reason. This she glanced at the newcomer, this is exactly why we need to be strong together. If they want to silence us, we must not let them. But the voices grew louder, a tide of fear swelling as people turned to each other, glancing fearfully at the streets. It was as if a thick fog of uncertainty descended over them, clinging to their hopes and dreams. Don't let them win. We can still fight. Sarah pressed, trying to instill resolve in their hearts. This is our moment. Remember why we gathered. We owe it to ourselves, to those who came before us. But it felt like a futile effort. The crowd hesitated, torn between the fear of what was outside and the desire for change that Sarah had just ignited. A father clutched his child tightly, looking back towards the shelter of the community center, while others debated making a run for it. Jordan pressed against Sarah, his brows furrowed. What do we do? We can't just let fear dictate our choices. I don't know, she admitted, her throat dry with anxiety. But running away won't change anything. They might think they can silence us, but we're stronger than that. As those words escaped her lips, a decision formed in Sarah's heart. All right, we need to regroup. I need everyone's attention. She shouted, raising her voice above the chaos. We can't abandon our mission because of fear. A handful of people still listened, and as they started to look at her again, she felt a flicker of determination within her. Let us create a blockade at the entrance of the community center. We need to protect the people here. If we stand together, they can't break us. Help me. Forward. As Sarah stepped toward the front of the crowd, the uncertainty flickered in their eyes. Would they really stand and fight, or would fear cause them to scatter? Her heart raced. This was a moment of truth. And before she could prepare for what came next, a new surge of voices echoed from the street, the unmistakable sound of boots marching, a deep rumble that resonated through the flesh of the ground beneath them. Sarah's breath hitched. Was this it? Would they break through their fear, or would she have to make a choice that perhaps she wasn't ready for? With the thumping sound echoing closer, she felt the weight of her decision press against her chest like a stone. The faces around her began to shift, uncertainty battling with newfound bravery. Could they come together, no matter the cost? As the tension hung in the air, she raised her chin, heart hammering, ready to lead them into an uncertain but transformative moment. And just as she prepared her next words, a voice broke through clear, demanding, that's them. They're here. What would be their next move? Would they rise together, or would this be the moment that everything fell apart? The boots grew louder, a menacing cadence that echoed in the hearts of those gathered. Sarah's mind raced as she stood at the forefront, adrenaline crackling through her veins. Shadows loomed closer, and she felt the cold touch of uncertainty on her back. They were here, and the moment she'd been dreading had arrived. She looked into the faces surrounding her. Some were frightened, eyes wide and glistening, while others hardened with determination. Jordan stepped closer again, his eyes searching hers. You're right, he said, his voice steadying. We can't let fear control us. We have to stand firm. His words sparked a fire in Sarah's heart. Exactly. If we want to change things, we need to show that we're united. They've used fear for too long. There was a flicker of inspiration in her voice, casting shadows aside. The crowd shifted, the high tide of anxiety mixed with a swell of commitment. Start forming a line. Let us create a barrier, a wall of resistance. Sarah shouted, feeling the momentum building. A murmur of agreement spread like wildfire. People began to move, some linking arms, others forming small clusters. The energy was palpable now. They felt an urgency, a collective heartbeat pulsing through the crowd. Sarah could sense it, this was their chance to fight back. As they shuffled closer to the entrance, she caught sight of the figures in uniforms emerging from the darkness. The first of them appeared, stern faces beneath dark caps, eyes scanning for dissent. They looked powerful, but there was something undeniably fragile about their strength too. Stay strong. Sarah called to her impromptu army. They're relying on us to back down. Stand your ground. The fear in the crowd's eyes didn't vanish, but it began to contort into something else, something fierce. A father holding his child shouted, "We won't let them take our voices away." And the cheer erupted, a powerful roar that echoed back towards the approaching officers. Suddenly, Sarah felt a rush of courage swell within her. "Together!" she shouted as they moved in unison, closer to the entrance, shoulders squared, hearts pounding. They were defying the darkness trying to descend upon them. Then, with every step, the air crackled. The officers stopped, taken aback by the unexpected show of solidarity. "You're trespassing!" one shouted. "Step aside!" Sarah took another step forward. Her gaze locked onto the officer's, unyielding. "No. We're not afraid of you." The crowd behind her surged forward, fueled by the spark she had ignited. The dark figures hesitated, glancing amongst themselves, doubt creeping in. It was a small crack in their armor, but it was enough. Just as Sarah felt the fragile hope blooming, a deafening clash rang out, the sound of a baton hitting the ground. A deep breath escaped her lips as the tension snapped. The moment hung heavy, charged with the essence of what was to come. "Fall back!" the officer shouted, frustration seeping into his command. But now, seeing the strength in numbers, Sarah felt her heart race faster. In that moment, everything felt surreal. She could feel history being written around her, each heartbeat a testament to their fight. But would it be enough? Would they hold firm or crumble under the pressure? "Stay together. We can't give in," she yelled, as fear began to transform into resolve. But what if the very ground they stood on couldn't protect them? The questions loomed as uncertainties mingled with the electric charge in the air. And as the officers regrouped, their scowls deepening, Sarah realized they were on the brink of something monumental. Either triumph or disaster loomed just within reach. But in the chaos, something shifted. A muffled voice behind her called out urgently, "Sarah! We have to move now." What were they about to face? Would the wave of courage hold its ground, or would that call signify their undoing? The urgency in the voice sent a jolt straight through Sarah. She turned her head, searching the crowd for the source. It was Mia, her childhood friend, eyes wide with panic. "What do you mean, move?" Sarah shouted back. "There's a back way. We can't just confront them head-on, it's too dangerous." Mia's look was wild, but there was something behind it, a fierce determination, similar to Sarah's. The heaviness of the moment still bore down, but now another choice lay before them. Sarah felt an internal battle unfold. Should they risk dispersing and possibly losing the momentum they had just gathered? "Listen up," Sarah called to the crowd, who were still buzzing with adrenaline and courage. "We've got an opportunity. If we stick together, we can flank them and make our voices heard." Jordan took a step toward her, determination shining in his eyes. "No matter what we do, we need to make sure we're not just scattering into the night. We're stronger together." He had a point. The collective force of their gathering thrummed through her like a heartbeat. She could feel it in the air. It was the strength of rebellion, of unified defiance. Yet, the looming figures of control stood just before them. The officers were regrouping. Their posture stiffened, readying themselves for a charging crowd. Fear flickered back into Sarah's mind, warning her, questioning her resolve. The morale of the crowd could shift so easily, she had seen it before. "Stay put!" Sarah yelled, and for a moment, silence fell over the mass. She could feel their eyes on her, searching for guidance. "We will not give them our strength. But if Mia says there's another way, let us use it to our advantage." Though the resolve flickered, it reignited with her words. She could see the nods, the swallowing of anxiety into determination again. Somehow, beyond the tension, there was hope. "Follow me," Sarah shouted, moving towards the back way Mia had mentioned, crafting a new path through the chaos. The crowd shifted like a wave, following closely behind her. As they turned, the officers seemed to misread their movement. They took a step forward, expecting confrontation. Instead, Sarah led them away, heart pounding, filled with a mix of anxiety and adrenaline. With each step into the unfamiliar path, every footfall felt like a claim of power over their circumstances. Outside, they stumbled into a small alley, darkness encasing them like a cloak, yet the distant echo of their voices filled the air. Sarah felt their collective energy surge as the realization struck: they were not marching towards defeat, but carving out a way to be heard on their own terms. Mia caught up to Sarah, breathless and excited. "What do we do next?" she asked. "We have to get this message out, to let everyone know we're not alone." "I don't know," Sarah admitted, scanning the alley and finding herself unsure once again. "But we have to figure it out now. We're on the verge of something, Mia, and we need to keep it going." Suddenly, a distant noise caught their attention, a commotion, voices, and sirens leaving a trail of worry. Panic threatened to spill over, but Sarah felt a sense of clarity within the chaos. The world beyond them was unpredictable, just like their fight. As they huddled together, Sarah's gaze sharpened. "What if we head out toward the park? If we can gather everyone there?" Mia nodded in agreement, but Sarah couldn't shake the gnawing feeling deep in her chest. What if they were too late? Would the officers follow them? Would they silence their voices before they could ever be heard again? The tension remained thick, but with purpose. Sarah turned to the group. "Let us move. We're not done yet." Knowing that what lay ahead would test their courage in ways they couldn't yet imagine, Sarah felt a spark ignite again. Together, they would push forward into the unknown, but once they reached the park, would they find their allies waiting? Or had the moment of unity already slipped through their fingers? They moved quickly through the narrow alley, Sarah leading the way, but the uncertainty loomed heavy on her shoulders. Each shadow around them felt alive, every sound a reminder of the chaos they were escaping. She pushed herself forward, ignoring the tight knot in her stomach. They needed to stay focused. Mia stayed close, glancing at Sarah. "Do you think we lost them?" "I hope so," Sarah replied, though her heart thumped with unease. "But we can't stop now. We have to get there." Ahead of them, the alley opened into a small street, and Sarah caught a glimpse of the park just beyond, the faint glow of streetlights revealing familiar paths. Her heart raced at the thought of allies gathering there, the possibility of turning their momentum into something more than just a fleeting moment. As they emerged onto the main road, the cold bite of the night air hit them. Voices in the distance fueled her determination. Once they reached the park, they would find others who felt as they did, who shared the rage and the hope that coursed through her veins. The thought urged Sarah to move faster, to fight through the fatigue building in her legs. The crowd gathered in the park was small but vibrant, illuminated by the flickering lights above. Some were already chanting, their voices rising, echoing the spirit of defiance Sarah herself carried. When they saw her group emerge from the alley, a cheer erupted, igniting a sense of belonging that warmed the chill of the night. "Sarah!" a voice called out. It was Jordan, waving them toward a small assembly near the fountain. "We thought you got caught." "No way," Sarah replied, breathing deeply as she joined the others. "We're here to stay and fight." Mia joined her side, the spark of hope lighting within her eyes. "What's our plan now?" Jordan stepped forward, fists clenched in determination. "We have to reach more people. We can't just be a few voices in the night." Everyone nodded. "Let us spread the word," yelled someone from the back, a young girl with fiery red hair. "We can use social media. Get people to come." Sarah's heart raced with the possibility. If they could mobilize more voices, more support, it could really make a difference. "Yes. Let us do it," she shouted. "Mia, can you handle social media? We need to craft a message that calls everyone to join us." "Absolutely." Mia's fingers danced over her phone as she spoke. "I'll create a live stream, show everyone what is happening." As she began to type, the energy of the crowd surged. Sarah felt hope bloom within her once again. They were no longer escaping, they were standing their ground. But just as adrenaline washed over them, a sound cut through the excitement. The distant wail of sirens grew nearer. Fear rippled through the crowd. Sarah's heart sank. What if the officers found them? Stay calm, she asserted, trying to steady her own shaking hands. Let us get louder. We won't let them silence us. A chorus of voices rose around her, their chants growing boldly like wildfire, pushing back against the sounds of authority. As bears of light washed over them, illuminating their faces, Sarah felt a fierce pride swell in her chest. They were no longer individuals but a movement, a force of resistance. They were fighting not just for themselves, but for all those who felt voiceless. Yet, as they chanted, the sirens drew closer. What would happen when the officers arrived? Would their brave front hold? Keep going. We need to show them this isn't over. Sarah urged, adrenaline igniting every word. But even as their voices rose, her thoughts raced ahead, uncertain and anxious. What if the night brought more than just confrontation? What lay ahead could change everything. With one last, defiant shout echoing into the night, she couldn't shake the sinking feeling that a storm was brewing, a confrontation that would demand more than just their voices. Would they be ready when it came? The air thickened with anticipation as the sirens grew louder, almost drowning out the collective heartbeat of the crowd. Sarah felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration wash over her. Each chant felt like a lifeline tossed into a stormy sea, and with every rallying cry, she was reminded of why they had come together that night. Hold strong, Jordan shouted, his voice cutting through the noise as he locked eyes with Sarah. We have the numbers. We have each other. A wave of determination swept through the crowd, energy igniting like a match to kindling. People packed in tighter, forming a wall of solidarity against the uncertainty looming from the distance. Sarah could feel the heat of bodies around her, their breath mingling with the chill of the night, and for a brief moment, that warmth chased away her mounting anxiety. Mia, who had been glued to her phone, suddenly looked up, her cheeks flushed. I'm live, she declared, excitement sparkling in her eyes. They can see us. They have to hear what we're saying. The way the crowd shifted and turned towards the small screen felt electric. For a moment it was as if the world outside the park had melted away, it was just them, an army of young voices ready to roar. Let us show them what we're made of. Sarah shouted, her voice rising above the rest as she pumped her fist into the air. No more silence. No more darkness. We are the light. A voice roared back, and the crowd responded with a cheer that felt like thunder rolling through the night. They were a force, their passion tangible, emotions spilling over, and the sirens now felt like a call to arms instead of a warning to retreat. But deep down, Sarah knew the stakes could shift at any moment. It was a game of time. They needed to act swiftly before the authorities showed up in full force, ready to crush their spirit. The sound of the sirens grew steadily until it was punctuated by the sharp crack of a voice over a loudspeaker. Disperse immediately. You are violating city ordinances. The authority was here, the official warning slicing through their chants like a knife. Fear threatened to creep back in, but Sarah wouldn't let it. Her pulse raced, every beat urging her to stand her ground. We're not going anywhere, she yelled, her voice resolute, unyielding. This is our right. We are here to be heard. Another cheer erupted, but the sound of discording shouts between protesters and officers echoed in her mind. It was a wall of sounds, both resistance and authority, and Sarah knew they needed to keep the momentum alive. As the first group of officers approached, flashlights dancing among the trees, Sarah felt a mix of desperation and empowerment. The crowd surged like a tide, moving as one, their voices forming walls of fire against the blue-clad figures advancing on them. Remember why we're here, Sarah shouted, feeling the energy flicker to life again. We're fighting for a future. For those who can't fight for themselves. But in that moment, the reality of the confrontation settled heavily over her. She caught glimpses of fear in familiar faces as they murmured anxiously, the light in their eyes dimming just a bit. Were they truly ready for this? Just as she thought the moment couldn't be more charged, a figure from behind the officers stepped forward, catching Sarah's attention. The person was tall, their silhouette against the light sharp and defined. Who were they? The air shifted, and something in Sarah clenched tightly like a warning bell ringing in her head. What could this new presence mean? Would they bring support, or would they be the voice of the very forces they were rallying against? With her heart pounding, Sarah prepared for whatever was about to unfold, hoping her instinct would guide them through the storm that was clearly brewing just beyond the edge of their gathering. The figure stepped closer, the beam of a flashlight illuminating their face just enough for Sarah to recognize them. It was her former high school principal, Mr. Thompson. His expression was serious, though there was an unmistakable spark of hope in his eyes. "Sarah!" he called out, his voice resonating through the chaos. "You don't have to do this alone." At that moment, the crowd became quieter, shifting their focus to this unexpected ally. The tension in Sarah's chest eased slightly. Mr. Thompson had always been a champion for students, a voice for the unheard in a system that often overlooked them. She had faith in him. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice cracking slightly above the murmurs. "I'm here to stand with you." "I'm with the movement," he emphasized, stepping closer, the crowd around them shifting as they took in the sight. "I believe in what you're fighting for." The affirmation sparked a wave of renewed energy through Sarah. "We need to keep standing. We're fighting not just for us but for everyone who feels sidelined." The crowd echoed her resolve, voices rising up once again. Mr. Thompson smiled, a deep warmth flooding his eyes. Suddenly, the officers began moving forward, faces set and determined. A few in the crowd stepped back, the fear creeping back as shadows loomed closer. Sarah felt her stomach drop, the confrontation was no longer a distant worry, it was right in front of them. "Hold your ground," Mr. Thompson shouted, raising his hands in a gesture of solidarity. "Remember what this is about." It felt like time stood still. The officers were there, but there was also a barrier of young faces, hearts beating as one. Sarah inhaled deeply, tasting the adrenaline. "We have a right to be here," she cried, louder than before. Mr. Thompson stepped closer to her, and she could see the determination etched in his features. "Let us show them where the real power lies, in unity." The officers hesitated, slowing their advance. A few of them exchanged glances, unsure of how to handle the swelling force of voices challenging their authority. Sarah felt a flicker of hope spark between the two sides. But just then, a loud crash disrupted the moment. A protester had thrown an object in the direction of the officers, a split-second act of panic. The response was immediate. Officers surged forward, commanding, "Back away. Evacuate." Panic rippled through the crowd. Some people stumbled, while others shouted in confusion. Sarah's heart raced. This was how it was supposed to end. She couldn't let fear dictate the outcome. "Stay together," she shouted, trying to counter the rising tide of chaos. She looked back at Mr. Thompson, who was already signaling for calm, calling for everyone to breathe, to hold on to the unity they had built. "Together," he shouted, reaching out to the crowd. His example was infectious. People inched back, forming a barrier of bodies, a shield of determination that wouldn't crack under pressure. But another voice broke through the upheaval. A different figure approached from the opposite end of the park, someone Sarah recognized as well. It was Jenna, her longtime rival from school, and she seemed to be leading a separate group of protesters toward the scene. In that moment, Sarah's heart began to pound louder than ever. A confrontation was brewing, and the unpredictable clash could blunt their momentum completely. Would Jenna join their cause or escalate the situation? Sarah's eyes darted between the two groups, her heart pounding louder with every second. The stakes had skyrocketed, and everything hung in the balance as she took a step forward, ready to confront what was coming next. How could she bring everyone together when the divisions threatened to tear them apart? Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. The moment was ripe with tension. On one side stood officers, poised to maintain order, and on the other, a new group led by Jenna, fierce and ready to fight. The atmosphere buzzed with anxiety, and it felt as if the world was holding its breath. "Jenna!" Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the rising murmur of both sides. "Wait! We don't need to fight each other." Jenna paused, eyes narrowing. "And why should I listen to you?" Her tone dripped with skepticism. "You think this is about unity? Look around, this is our chance to show we won't back down." "That's exactly it." Sarah pressed, keeping her tone steady. "We're not just facing the officers. We're fighting against a system that wants to divide us. If we let anger overcome us, we'll lose sight of what we're really here for." The crowd murmured, tension hanging thick in the air. Sarah's heart raced. She could feel the weight of their expectations. Would Jenna and the others behind her join the fight for the same cause, or would they fracture the unity they'd just begun to build? "Look at us," Sarah continued, gesturing to the diverse crowd surrounding her. "We come from so many different backgrounds, but we all want the same thing, to be heard, to demand change. If we let anger take over, we'll never make the progress our communities need." Jenna crossed her arms, but there was a flicker of indecision in her eyes. "And what exactly do you plan to do? Just talk them down?" "No. We're here to move mountains. But we have to work together." Sarah's voice trembled with urgency. "Let us show them that we can unite, and that our voices together can't be silenced. But that starts right now. This moment is ours. Not to fight against each other." A nearby protester chimed in, "She's right. We can't let them control the narrative." A ripple of agreement swept through the crowd, but Jenna remained unmoved, her brows furrowed with annoyance. Sarah pressed on, "Jenna, think about it. We can stand together against the real opposition. This is our opportunity to write our own story." The words seemed to resonate with more people now, a chorus of murmurs filling the space around them, a seed of hope planting itself. Jenna's expression softened, and for a moment, Sarah thought she saw a glimmer of understanding. "All right," Jenna finally said, looking over her shoulder at her fellow protesters. "Let us say I'm willing to listen. What do you suggest?" "Communicate," Sarah responded immediately, determination surging through her. "We all want change, so let us channel this energy into something powerful. Instead of fighting, let us demand their attention. Let us raise our voices together and make them hear us." A resounding cheer erupted, echoing like a heartbeat, sparking the kind of hope that made the night feel alive. Sarah saw people nodding, eyes brightening, and it filled her heart with warmth. They weren't just individuals anymore, they were a collective force, ready to push back against the darkness. "Now!" she shouted, her voice commanding. "Let us show them who we are." With that, Sarah turned to face the officers, raising her hands high, feeling the pulse of the crowd behind her. "We're not here to incite violence, we're here to speak our truths." The officers hesitated, stunned by the sheer strength in their voices. A few officers exchanged glances, and for the first time, uncertainty flickered on their faces. The crowd surged forward, united, a flood of hope and pain that was powerful enough to shatter silence. The air crackled with intensity, each voice rising together, woven tightly by a shared urgency. Sarah felt a surge of power course through her. Their stories, their voices combined, had transformed into something unstoppable. Together, they shouted, the word reverberating through the park, a battle cry that echoed not just against the officers, but through the very core of their existence. As the chants rang out, Sarah's heart soared. They were no longer bound by fear, they were anchored by community. This wasn't just a protest, it was a movement. Sweeping through them like a wildfire. And then, in that moment of clarity, Sarah realized, they had already begun to shift the narrative. The world was listening. Their courage, strength, and resolve could pave a way for change that could echo far beyond that night. But the journey wasn't over. As tensions remained high, she knew they needed to stay vigilant, to keep pressing forward against the tides of authority. They were in this fight for the long haul. Let us take it to the streets from here. She called to the crowd, feeling the energy ripple through them. Let our voices resonate everywhere until they can't ignore us. Together, they turned towards the street, a wave of determined individuals ready to march forward, united, strong, and relentless. No longer alone, Sarah felt the warmth of hope fill her up, guiding them onto the path of transformation. This wasn't just about her father's legacy anymore, it became the legacy of all. Hand in hand, they stepped out into the unknown together, ready to forge their future, not just a fraction of themselves, but the fullness of every story amalgamated into a singular fight for equity for every child, every worker, and every voice. Sarah could feel the rise of change beneath her feet, the stirring of revolution in the hearts of many surrounding her. They were no longer defined by their struggles, but rather, they were defined by their courage. And with that, they moved forward promising action, promising truth, and promising that their story had only just begun. What they created here could resonate far beyond the park, a ripple of transformation that would reach corners they had yet to imagine. This was only the start, and they'd make it count. It was the dawn of a new day, a collective awakening of a community united. Together, they would rise, together, they would fight. This was their moment. And as they marched forward into that bright unknown, Sarah felt a sense of belonging wash over her, hope igniting her heart. Here they were, family, friends, and neighbors united in purpose, ready to change their world at last. Now, it's time to turn inspiration into action. You need to subscribe now to catch the next chapter of this unforgettable journey. Leave a like now to keep this story alive and fuel the struggle. Comment below and share your feelings about this powerful moment. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Let us keep this movement going.